Hey, what's up? Welcome back. In this episode, we're going to take a look at Notion, that brand new Notion API, and we'll just play around with some of the features and see if we can get something up and running with Ruby. So the Notion is a productivity tool. It's kind of like a hyper powered up notebook that you can use for, you can even have like task lists and a few other really cool things. And they just released a brand new developer API. It's still in beta. And what I wanted to do was, I've not actually like dug into the API at all. And I wanted to make a video about sort of like a reaction or like a quick first take on the developer API for Notion. And we can go through and take a look at the docs, and we'll review and sort of maybe give like an API review for the Notion docs from our perspective. So start building with the Notion API. This is pretty cool. It has like a get started button where I'm assuming you can learn how to make requests. So let's go back before we do the get started thing and look at just how they're sort of marketing this. So building blocks for developers, you can aggregate data from many sources into your workspace, spend less time switching, increase your your visibility across software and services. So we've got the API reference, we've got examples, and we've got opportunity to partner with them. I'm guessing this is like you can build like extensions or something onto Notion that other folks would then use. So that's pretty cool. So the API reference is a technical guide, and then we've got our examples. So generally that's like a pretty common thing with APIs and API documentation is you'll have like the reference, which tells you all of the endpoints, the arguments, the params, the types, and all of that. And then you'll have examples, which are sort of like end-to-end use cases maybe. So what's new? So we've got a live stream workshop, that's cool. And then connecting Notion with Zapier, Typeform, Automate.io, that's sweet. Those are all sort of no-code tools. So it's interesting because Notion has like been a tool that I would say is like in the no-code space, like one of the tools that folks are using for productivity in terms of, managing their business processes or managing their workflows. There's a lot of other no-code alternatives like Airtable and a few others that you might have heard of. But yeah, let's just keep taking a look here. So we've got a nice change log. That's cool. All right, so if we dig into maybe the guides here and look at how to get started, you're new to the API, you got to create an integration in your workspace, and then you have to create a new database in Notion and grant your integration permission to access it. And then we have to use code to add a page to the database. So before we begin, log into your workspace. We need to curl, and we need about 10 minutes. Okay, so let's create our first integration. So we're going to go to your integrations. Okay, so this is my first knit. It says in another browser window, open your integrations. But then this link tag should probably be target blank, right? Yeah, so let's give this thing a target blank so that it opens in a new window. So I don't have to like, instead of saying in another browser window, open this link, just like make the link open in a new browser window. Cool. All right, so new integration. Let's create a new integration. We'll call this like a demo or something. I don't know. Oh, cool, you can give it a logo. Great. I don't need a logo. Internal integration token. I'm guessing this is secret and we don't want to share this with folks. Is it an internal integration or public integration? Cool. So we'll just start off with an internal one. I'm going to show this off screen here. So then we will say, yep, save changes. Cool. Oh gosh, you can see it then, huh? All right, that's right. Whatever. My integrations. We've got our demo integration. What else do we need? All right, so now that we have an integration created, find the internal integration under secret tokens. Okay, share a database with your integration. So integrations built with the following API permissions requires sharing permissions for users. There's an important difference. Integrations don't have access to any pages or databases in the workspace at first. You have to share specific pages with an integration in order for those pages to be accessed by the API. Okay. Start a new or existing, okay. All right, so let's go to, I don't know, let's add a new page and we'll call it like, let's see, can we just do this, database? Okay, cool. And we'll say, I don't know, demo. Or maybe we'll say like customers, sure, okay. They've called theirs weekend getaway destinations. Sure, whatever. Click the share button and then use the selector to find your bot by its name. So that's interesting. Share. Where do we have share? Oh, share. And okay, so this is the integration. And then we say invite. Okay, we've invited them. And okay. So here where it says selecting your bot means integration. I would rename that to integration there. And then you click invite. Okay, cool. So it says now your integration has permissions to read, write, and edit the new database once a new integration is added to a workspace. And okay, blah, blah, blah. Before you move on, you need the ID of the database you just created. So if you're using the Notion desktop app, you can click that. If you're using the browser, I'm guessing it's this string here or something. Let's see. Yeah, it's that string. That's the database ID. Okay. And then to add an item to the database, each item in a Notion database is a child page. We can add an item to the database by creating a new page while setting its parent to the database. Let's send an HTTP request to create the page, to the create page endpoint to add a new item. Open your terminal and do this thing. What would be super cool is if this database ID was already pre-filled for us, but whatever, it's all good. Properties, name, title, text, content. That's pretty deep down there. Is the name, I named, or I have name also, so let's see if that just works out of the box. And paste this in, and then go all the way back to here and change this to Notion key. And then we need database ID. This needs to be our database ID, which is this thing. Okay, and then let's just fire off this request. Hey, look at that. What did we get back? Oh, look at that. Yurt in Big Sur, California. Okay, cool. So we hit the API, so that's great. And we were able to create stuff in the database there. Run the command and switch back to Notion. New item will appear in your database. Cool. No item appearing. It did appear. So you added a new item to the database. Cool. Follows REST conventions. The curl URL represents a resource. Okay, we're using authentication tokens. All right, wrapping up. All right, so that is kind of it. So if you're building up an integration to work across many workspaces, you can use OAuth. That's pretty cool. And then try some example code to get up and running. So sync Notion with GitHub issues, send an email from a Notion trigger. So how does this work? Oh, it's using the SendGrid API. Interesting. All right. This is cool, being able to fork it on GitHub or view the live example. Let's take a look at where they're hosting their examples. Ah, glitch. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So in order to make this work, you have to put in your GitHub API key, Notion keys, etc. That's cool. Let's take a look at this email one. So this email one requires what? Let's see. Also, I didn't notice if that last demo was using JavaScript. I think it might have been. Yeah, so these examples are all using Node. That's cool. What if I want to use Ruby? If I want to use Ruby, do we have Ruby code? Okay, so this is all the examples. It's just two. You can sync Notion with GitHub, or you can send an email from a Notion trigger. What is a Notion trigger? I don't know. Okay, so then let's take a look at the API reference here. So pretty standard. On the top of the API reference, we have the standard ways to authenticate, paginate, handle versioning and errors. That's great. I do see that we have a Notion SDK. I wonder if there's someone who's already started Notion Ruby SDK or something like that. Introducing the Notion API Ruby Gem by Dan Murphy. All right, let's see. Notion Ruby, unofficial Notion client. We've also got Notion SDK-Ruby. These are all things that popped up over the last couple of weeks because I think the API was just published. So let's see. Okay, yeah, that one was a while ago. Let's see what else we got here. Notion Ruby. Does this one use the official API? So you put in your API token, and then you can say get page, give it those. Oh wow, you can pass it the full URL. That's nice. Okay. And then what else do we got here? You can set the title. Yeah, I was trying to think about how we can send like webhook or like maybe like listening to a webhook from somewhere and then sending a notification or like updating the database in Notion from a webhook. And it doesn't look like there's any sort of tooling around webhooks. So that could be something like some sort of middleware that we set up is like, or maybe we could use Zapier to set up the webhook. Actually, I don't know how that would work. So yeah, let's spin up a quick little Rails app here. So we'll say Rails new Notion play. So we'll use Postgres, and the goal here will be that we want to create maybe like a Notion page with a payment link, and a payment link from Stripe, and someone could pay. And then this little Rails app will listen for notifications that are happening on our Stripe account, and then it will just like update the Notion database with like successful payments or sales or something like that. So we'll just try to wire up Stripe in Notion. While that's happening, let's go over to our Stripe dashboard. And I have some payment links here in test mode. One is for like chess. It's like a game. I'll just like copy that. Or yeah, like teaching. It's a course for how to teach how to implement chess with Ruby. There's videos on this channel if you're interested in trying to implement chess with Ruby. But maybe we have like, this is like the chess with Ruby for beginners. And I guess this would be kind of like a website page. I don't know how you actually like make this share. Can I just like make this public, share to the web? Okay, so then if someone went to that page, what would they see? They would just see this link, and then they could click on the link, and they're brought to Stripe checkout, and then they could pay through Stripe checkout. And then the goal is that once they pay, we can create maybe like a table inside of Notion here. So let's add a new page, and we'll call it like course sales. And this is going to be a table, and we'll have like the customer name. We can also have maybe like let's see, we're going to have like the payment ID. We'll store the payment intent ID, and then we'll have like a status maybe. And then we will have the email address for the customer. Let's see, can we change this? Oh, nice. Okay, so we can make that an email address. And then, yeah, we'll call that good. I think that's probably a good start. And the idea would be that we want to share this with our demo integration. We're going to say invite. Okay, and all right, we're done sharing. So this course sales thing, we're going to try to populate every time someone pays for the course there. So let's see. How's this going to work? All right, so in our Rails app, we need a controller to listen for webhooks. So Rails G controller webhooks, and we'll need to add a route for that. All right, so in our webhooks controller, we'll have one endpoint. We'll just call it create. And then in this create endpoint, we're going to like listen for events on our Stripe account. And then like when a new checkout.session.completed event fires, we want to like refetch the session with line items expanded. And then we want to like put or like create a new entry in Notion. All right, so let's see how we can do this. So in order to listen for new events on our Stripe account, let's pull up the endpoint, the stuff to build a webhook endpoint, and we'll look at the Ruby code for this, and we'll just grab like all this stuff here and drop it in. This is not going to like verify signatures or anything. We're just kind of playing around. So when checkout.session.completed, we want to refetch the session. So we're going to say session is event.data.object. And then we're going to say, actually we can just say like Stripe checkout session.retrieve, and the ID is this thing, and then expand. We want to expand line items, and we also want to expand the customer. All right. So we're going to retrieve the checkout session, and we're going to expand those items so that we have access to all of those. And then we're going to use that to create an entry in Notion. So we need a couple things. We need to set up API keys for Stripe, and we need to set up some sort of API keys for Notion. So let's say Rails, let's see, editor, Rails credentials : edit. This will allow us to create some encrypted credentials where we can store our Notion key and our Stripe key. I'm going to say, let's see, Stripe, secret key and public key. And the secret key is going to be something, and the public key is going to be something. And then we'll have like the Notion secret key. I'm pretty sure there's only one, but yeah, we'll just do that. Okay, so from the Stripe dashboard, you can get your API keys under Developers API keys. They're here. Okay, so I've got my Notion integration API key. I've got my Stripe API keys set up. Now I need to add these gems. So bundle add Stripe. I think I might need Stripe Ruby. Can't remember. And then I think maybe it makes sense to try one of these gems out. So let's see. Yeah, I think this might be using, I don't know, last touched on Jan 30. Okay, but the Notion API like just came out, or like was just officially released. So I'm not sure which of these we actually want to do. Pages create, we give it the parent. Okay, and this is linking to the API reference, the official API reference. So I think maybe this one's a little bit safer to work with. 13 days ago. I don't know. We'll see. So notion-sdk-ruby. Let's see. How do we install this thing? Okay. So let's add that. Bundle add notion-sdk-ruby, and then we'll need to create some initializers where we set up the client, the Notion. Or I'm sorry. I guess we don't need an initializer if we're just going to use this client directly in that one controller action. Same thing with Stripe. Well, with Stripe we can. Let's do them both in the controller action, that's fine. So webhooks controller. And then here, what I'm gonna do is at the very top, I'm just gonna say like Stripe.api key is rails.application.credentials.dig Stripe secret key. And then here, I guess we want like a Notion client, and that's gonna be Notion client.new, and then this is going to be rails.application.credentials.dig Notion secret key. I think that might work. All right, so then we're going to like receive the API request, and then when the checkout session is completed, we want to create a new entry in Notion. So here we're going to say like Notion client dot something. And this is where we're going to add the page. So we basically want to do like that API request that we did in the terminal earlier. But I think this is going to be how we do it. So, okay, so let's take a look at all of this business here. So the database ID, this database ID needs to be the database ID for like our course sales, which again is going to be this ID here that's in the URL. And then the properties, the name is going to be the customer's name. So let's do session.customerdetails.name. And then we don't have a description. We have a payment ID. So let's see if this works. Payment ID. And then this is going to be title. Actually, I don't know what the deal is with title here and text. Like I'm a little confused by these properties. Like, what does it mean for it to be the title versus something else? So let's go take a look at the API ref here. And when we're creating a page object, I am confused by that structure. So name, title, description, select. So title, I wonder if title is what you always get if it's just a string. Property values. Let's see. Okay. So if the type is, what? What? Okay, okay. All property values. So we've got the type text, text content, text content, text content. Okay, so this is how you're like creating it. And then, yeah, like where does title come from? Okay. Otherwise, the only property value is the title. Okay, so all right, let's just assume that's right. So title, text, and the content for this payment ID is going to be session.payment intent, I believe. And then what else did we want to store? We want to store the status. So here we can say status, and this is going to be a title, text, content. We'll just say paid for now. And then we can assume that the status is going to be like one of, actually, let's make the status select. Yeah, let's just play around with this for a second. If we make this select, can we give it specific things? I don't know. All right, well, let's go back to select, and then we'll say the select the name paid. I don't know, we'll see if that works. And then for the email, okay, I'm guessing this is going to be also title. Oh gosh, those are supposed to be, okay. Maybe this is wrong, I'm not sure. So we're going to need to take a look at this again. So the email, does the email property have something else? Email. Property values for email. Okay, so this one's simpler. So you can just say like the name and then the email, the actual value. So let's just say like email is session.customer-details.email, I think. I don't know. Let's see. So I think one thing that I might want to do here is like pull out this hash, the params, and put it above and just say like update params, and then we can print it out so that we can see what it looks like. Puts update params in the console, and then we'll also just pass it update params. Okay. So what do we got going on here? When the checkout session is completed, we're going to retrieve the checkout session with the line items and the customer, and then we're going to like try to update our database. Let's see if it works. Rails S, who knows? I should have set this up as like an API only Rails app. It's a little late now, but whatever. Oh gosh, we need to use, okay, node-env list, node-env versions. I have to switch my node environment, node-env versions. Node-env local, she's the one that works with Webpacker. And then try this again. While that's going, I'm going to split the pane vertically so that what we can do over here is use the Stripe CLI. So I'm going to say Stripe login to log into the Stripe CLI. And this will connect to my Stripe account. That's the demo Stripe account that I want to use. I'm going to say allow access. And now I can say Stripe listen -- forward to localhost 3000 /webhooks. And now when events fire on our Stripe account, they should be forwarded to localhost 3000. Let's also split this one horizontally because we can use Stripe trigger checkout.session.completed as like a quick test that simulates someone going through checkout. Okay, so then the other thing that I forgot to do over here was to go to the routes file and add an entry for resources webhooks. And all right, let's fire up the Rails app and see if it starts this time. Now that now that the Webpack is installed, even though we're not going to look at the view anywhere. All right, so now if I say trigger checkout session completed, I should see those events firing over here, and we do, and we have errors all over the place. Fantastic. All right, so what do we got going on here? Oh my gosh. We haven't created the database yet because we don't need one. Okay, Rails DB migrate? No, Rails DB create DB migrate. I think that should create the database and then migrate it even though it doesn't exist. I do have Postgres running, so that should work. Okay. Restart Rails. And re-trigger this thing. Okay. Oh. Stuff is happening. Undefined method name for stripe object. Okay, so fantastic. So we are receiving events. We're getting a 204 here because we're not rendering any content back, I think, maybe. And we did get a 500 on one of them at least. Oh, that must have been, yeah, okay, so checkout session completed. We got a 500. So let's open a new tab here and go back into here and go to our webhooks controller. And then we want to say, or name, where's name? Okay, so customer details.name. Is that what it's actually called? Event.data.object.id. And then here we'll say p session retrieved and its ID. And maybe like customer details. Or maybe this should be customer.name. Let's see. Yeah, let's just give that a shot and then rerun this thing. Notion version header failed. The Notion version header should be defined. It was undefined. Okay, so back to our Notion SDK gem. There's something we're missing here, and that is the version. So how do you set the version? I do not see a place to set the version. And it looks like it was a Notion error. No, okay, so maybe this is just like coming back from the Notion API and this is just a generic error. And maybe the gem doesn't actually support this yet. So let's go look at the client, Notion client, and see. Yeah, it just sets the API key. And okay, so let's dig through here. Version, I'm sure, is the gem version. Request client. Okay. So from the API ref, we see this versioning thing, and the versioning says that it needs to be a header that's included that has the Notion version, which is a date. So back in the Notion SDK here, we should see this headers situation also setting like version. And it looks like it says it's backwards compatible. Required header. We strongly encourage you to use this starting June 1. Okay, just the other day, starting June 1, it needs that header. All right, so this is fun. This is super fun because now we need to like fork this gem, or like one option is we fork this gem and fix it ourselves. Or yeah, let's open a new issue. As of June 1, the version header needs to be set. Per the docs here, the version needs to be set. I'm getting this error. When trying to create a page. Okay, so now what we can do is, if we're being super nice, is we come over here to the Notion SDK and we fork it. And okay, so we're making a fork of the Notion. I kind of expected something like this because the API was like just released, that I didn't expect anyone to really have like anything nailed down about how all this stuff works. So let's go back into our local machine. We're gonna git clone the Notion SDK for Ruby. Then we're going to cd into Notion SDK for Ruby, and let's see if they have any tests here for, let's see, request client spec. Like I bet if we just run the tests, maybe they should fail. Okay, so bundle install. It looks like there are spec tests. Installing a bunch of stuff. Hopefully this is interesting. I know we're doing like a whole bunch of different stuff. Just to play around with the Notion API. Cannot load such file. Okay, whatever, let's see. So can I just come in here and go to Notion, go to this thing and try to run all these tests for this one file? Request client, okay. So should set base URI. So 4 examples, no failures, okay. I think the headers need to be more than just this though. Like I think the headers should have like this thing, right? It needs to have Notion version. And I'm guessing this is probably going to be the best one to start with. And if we run this, the test is going to fail. Okay, we failed the test. So now let's try to like go fix the test. Okay, so class, client.class.headers. We need to go into the client and let's see, where was it? Okay, client.class.headers. The client here is an instance of the described class, which is an instance of Notion request client. Request client. So here, I think I might be able to just do this. I don't know. Notion dash version, and then change this to this thing. And then can we rerun the tests? Hey, okay. So now let's try my branch name. So we're going to put it back up on my branch. Maybe. Okay. Pushing it back up to my branch. And then if we take a look at that forked branch. Okay, yeah, so we see the pull request here to add the version header. Okay, that's cool. Now let's go back over, like, I don't know if that's the right way to implement it, right? Like maybe they want to implement it so that you can pass the version into the client when you're initializing the client. All right, that's probably the right way to do it. Let's go do that. No, I don't care enough. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go back to my Ruby gems here, and instead of loading Notion Ruby from the, like I want to pull it from GitHub and load gem from GitHub. And so we just say git. I thought it was GitHub. Okay, whatever. You just pass it the thing. So this is the thing. So from git, pull in this repository, and then I think we need to specify like the branch. Yeah, okay. So then branch is going to be the branch name that we made up over here. And bundle install. And now Rails S. trigger the checkout session completed event. And whoops. Okay, body failed validation. Body properties name, title, text, content should be a string. Instead, it was null. All right, so for a moment, we're doing too much at once. So let's like narrow this down and just pass in like test name, test payment ID, and test email. And then we will rerun this. We also need to like return something here at the bottom. So we should say render JSON of like success true. Rails S, and then we can re-trigger this thing. And let's see. Payment ID is expected to be rich text. Payment ID is expected to be rich text. So we don't actually want this to be rich text. We want it to be, wait, what? Text? How is that different from this? Title, oh, we want it to be a title. How do we make it a title? Oh, what? You can't have another title? That's weird. Okay. What? That's odd, right? That's odd. Okay, so it's supposed to be rich text. So then how do we pass the rich text? Okay, so instead of text, we pass rich text. In practice too, I'd probably put this stuff down into like some object that's responsible just for this. So instead of title, it should be, okay, rich text properties use the, okay, so what does this mean? What? Okay, so create a page. This thing should show like examples on the right for all, okay, so rich text and then text. So this one should be rich text. And I'm guessing that's also rich text there. I don't know, let's see. I think we're getting close. I think we're getting close to having some stuff here. Yeah, okay, so let's fire off our webhook again and then refresh this page. Come on. Holy moly. So rich text.text should be defined. Golly. So this should be just text. Gosh. Come on, baby. Ah, invalid select option paid. Okay, so how the heck do I change the select option? Configure options. Here we go. Paid. Configure options. Refunded. So then it can be paid or refunded. Great. All right, I'm not gonna restart the server because I should be able to just fire this off and then this should work. And ooh, money, money, money. Look at that. Okay, test name, test payment ID. All right, so now let's go, let's print out P session so we have an idea of what's going on there. We'll take this out and then we will restart our server and then we should have a better idea. We can just like print out what's being retrieved from the API and hopefully we can take a look in more detail about what we're actually getting. Okay, here we go. This is it. So we want the customer's name, which can be inside of customer.name. Oh gosh, it's null. Okay, whatever, we can do an or. And then we want the customer email, which is going to be in customer details. And then the payment intent, I thought would be on here as line items, payment intent. Here we go. This is the ID that we want. And then payment status. Okay, cool. So let's go in here and then we're going to say the name is going to be like session.customer.name or like unknown or something, right? And then the payment ID is going to be session.payment intent. And then this is going to be session.payment status. And this will be session.customer details.email or like unknown at example.com. All right, so at least we'll have some sensible defaults if there are no names or emails. And we can trigger this. Go back to Notion. Hey, okay, unknown name, we've got the payment, we've got status, and we have the email address. That's getting closer. Okay, so let's go through our whole payment flow here. So we had that live. Okay, here we go. We are on the checkout page, right? We come to our landing page. Maybe we just like create this website with Notion that has a link here where people can buy. They click on buy. Comes over here. They can enter their email address. And then some card details. And click pay. And after they have completed payment, they're not going to be redirected anywhere. When you're using payment links, they just kind of stay on this page, at least for now. And then if we come over to our course, we see that Jenny Rosen bought, this is the payment ID, status is paid, and here's the email. So that's pretty sweet, okay? There's likely other triggers or something we could do from here where we can say like, oh, if this database has a new page added to it, take the email and then send them like a link to something. Maybe it's a link to another Notion page or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool, pretty fun. And I guess I guess we should probably make a PR for this. This like address is, what was the number, the issue number? Number 4. Not sure if you'd prefer the version passed into the client. And then just like quickly look at our changes that we made, and then we'll say create pull request. Cool. So we made a pull request to an open source library for the Notion SDK. We played around with the Notion API. We went from like start to finish with building out like a little table for course sales, which are ingesting some stuff from like Stripe webhooks that we're handling with Rails. So yeah, this was kind of fun, and it's an interesting API. It's like pretty limited, and the shape of it is, well, I don't know, like I'm not a huge Notion user, so I assume that just kind of working with these pages and blocks is going to be really, really powerful for folks. The thing that really tripped me up was like the format for the data that's coming into the cell. Like, is it rich text? Is it text? Is it a select? Is the select thing already created? How to pass the email, etc. So yeah, couple little cleanup things, but I think as a first pass, this is a really, really solid release for a tool that I know tons of folks use. So yeah, I had fun. Hopefully you found this interesting or useful in any way. And if so, I would really appreciate a like. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.